I'm your host, Felipe Rose, and welcome to the Disco Chronicles and Beyond. This podcast is about the disco era, the music, the culture, and the impact it's had on the world today, and why disco is still so hot. After successfully touring the world for over 4 decades as one of the original co-founders and members of the world-famous Village People, selling over 100 million records, this disco king truly knows a thing or two about the disco era. So sit back and relax and enjoy my conversation with my guest today. Welcome to another episode of the Disco Chronicles. I'm your host, Felipe Rose. It is with tremendous honor to welcome a true disco dance music pioneer, Ray Caviano, producer, promoter, and former head of Warner Brothers Records disco division. It doesn't get any bigger than that, folks. He also founded and ran his RFC Records imprint, disco label named after his initials, and promotions with TK Records, Marlin Records, Casablanca Records, to name a few. Ray has been in my orbit throughout my entire career with Village People. And let me tell you, there's some things we need to get into. Let's get right into it with my guest today. Ray, welcome to the Disco Chronicles.
2, 3.
Ray, you made my Monday, buddy.
Why is that? You thought I wasn't going to come on or something?
No, it's not that. Do you know? And I'm not. And so, welcome to the show and to my international followers and everyone that watches on Spotify.com and they hear us on Anchor FM. The reason why I'm going to ask you this question, like right now, why am I this excited, is because, believe it or not, the last time I saw you was at the Billboard Music Awards at the Hilton Hotel.
Wow. That's a long time ago, as you know.
Man, let me tell you, and that's what I'm finding now that's really exciting. Like when I've talked to Pinky Velasquez, Brian Chin, who actually made me laugh. He said, it's really great to finally meet you in my senior year. So,
oh my God.
So here we go. You know, I mean, I think that.
Don't mind if I have some coffee while we do this, right?
Excuse me, no, and I'm reaching up for something too. What was that, coffee? No, I've got my water here. Right, my God, there's so much.
Okay, the link was very easy. I just had to hit the link, and I didn't have to put in passwords or all of.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, right now you don't know, but this show today is, of course, being dedicated to Joyce Sims.
Wow.
So there'll be a memoriam, and her picture will be there before the show begins for a few minutes, or maybe like a minute, and then we'll come into our show.
Are you aware of the fact that I promoted Joyce Sims?
Well, yeah, I am, and and there are some questions that I
worked at Sleeping Bag
Sleeping Bag Micmac Records.
Well, I worked at both of them, but Joyce Sims was with Sleeping Bag, and a guy named Juggy Gales and Will Sokoloff were the principal.
Will Sokoloff, right. Where is he these days?
He's probably in Manhattan somewhere, doing real estate. I think his father was a lawyer, and
oh, okay.
You know, he's doing okay. So now, when do we formally start the show?
We've begun the show already.
There you go. Wow.
I already did the intro, right? As you came in, I finished your intro. I'll send you a small flash drive, and you'll get the whole show, and you'll see all the editing and the way it ends and what have you. Okay. So remembering Joyce Sims, okay? That's a really unbelievable loss. And I know that we have lost in the last couple of years quite a few people. And like last year, I think it was Sarah Dash.
Right.
You know, and she was just south of me. She was in Atlantic City. I'm on the Jersey Shore.
Right.
And I was thinking of going to the show, but I think the weather wasn't that great. And she went to see Patti LaBelle. And that was her last time, and actually sang with Patti LaBelle on stage.
Sarah Dash, she had that record called Sinner Man.
Sinner Man.
Right.
Now, Now, all in all, with Joyce Sims, the interesting thing is that I usually don't go to the song right away of a musical artist, for various reasons. Like I'll take a minute. You might do the same thing, but then when I saw your post on LinkedIn, I immediately played the song, and then for the rest of the day, like I had, my eyes were full of water. I
Yeah,
didn't I didn't cry, but I felt like any second the dam was gonna break.
yeah.
And
She was only 63.
yeah, and listen, like contemporaries here. I'm 68.
Yeah, yeah.
You, what do you remember about Joyce?
Well, she was, first of all, I saw her recently a couple of years ago. I have a photo somewhere in my computer here of myself and her. There was a benefit that I organized with a guy, excuse me, DJ Don Welsh. And we did it at a club uh, honoring a benefit for Colonel Abrams. And she was there. I hadn't seen her in a long time. She's always very polite. She sometimes would check in with me on Messenger, how you're doing, because she was inquiring about my health, which has been an issue for me in recent years.
Yeah, but
And
you're in an upswing. You're on an upswing.
in what context? What do you mean, Flip?
Well, you weren't feeling great, but then you sort of like kicked back your work schedule, and you kind of kicked back, and you really program yourself, like uh you were constantly during the pandemic, you were like crazy on the internet.
Well, I got COVID twice. Okay.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, and I got it in 2020 when it was the height of the pandemic raving. But I don't know if you're aware that I'm on dialysis because
Yes, I am. I gave a small donation through
yeah, GoFundMe.
our friend, through our friend Luongo. He
Right.
he told me about it. So I made a small
And
donation.
Felipe, that was so nice of him to. He called me up one day. He knew I was kind of with my medical expenses. I don't know if you know how medical expenses make people go bankrupt. And I mean, I have insurance and everything, but there's a thing called a copay. I'm not going to bore you with the subject.
No, trust me,
Anyway,
I'm dealing with stuff.
and John called me and he said, Raymond, let's reach out to the community and I'll put it together. He wrote a big narrative.
He did a great job. He did
Yeah.
a tremendous. I also sent it out to a few people.
And, we raised $10,000.
I know, I heard.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that must have been sucked up like that in a day.
it took about 5 days. But John look, he's a contemporary. We were both record company presidents at a very young age. He got a deal with CBS, and I got a major deal, as you know, with Warner Brothers. And that was the birth of the RFC label.
And we're gonna get into that. Yeah.
But back to Joyce Sims, though, she was gracious, a great singer. She had 2 hits, Come Into My Life and All in All. The other thing is, lately, in recent years, she's big in Europe. She gets tons of work in England. There's a thing, I don't know what it is, but in England and in Amsterdam and France and Italy and Germany, particularly in the UK, they're more open to our soul artists and allowing
They
them.
really are. You're absolutely right about that. And I got to tell you that the other thing is that Village People was not an instant hit here in America.
Right.
Not off the first album, San Francisco Hollywood, which was sort of like a landmark album because of the whole Anita Bryant, We Are the Children's campaign, and everyone came out. That became the backdrop soundtrack of that period. But then Macho Man and all these other songs, they were not that big in the States. And then Amsterdam, Germany, Norway, Switzerland, all these countries, and because Jacques Morale
was France,
they were French,
and Henry Bellolo.
And Henry Bellolo.
I knew them very well because on TK Records we had the Ritchie family.
That's it.
Right.
I wanted to get to that. You're like,
No, there's so much. We don't.
Well, the thing is that the other thing that we have in common with you, as with Michael Luongo
right.
and yourself, is that we were young guys. We were, I say boys, because now I'm grown up. I grew into me. I'm a man. I'm a guy.
I
But
see.
we were back then. We were young boys, and we were like, it wasn't a side hustle. We were on the hustle. It
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
big hustle.
Well,
And
I didn't get that record deal for Warner Brothers overnight because
no,
I had done. There was a guy that brought around me around the clubs, and it was about '76. And a guy named, do you remember the name Billy Smith?
yes.
He was one of the early promotion people, and he was nice enough to take me around to the clubs. I saw things were happening on Fire Island and at the gay firehouse in the city. And I'm going, wait a minute, there's a big thing going
Oh
on
my
there.
God, wait, I forgot about the firehouse. Wow.
Right. Yeah. That was
Oh,
that was one of the early clubs, with Nicky Ciano back
with
then.
the Limelight and
Right.
the Loft.
Right. And I saw that the scene was bubbling and what have you. And I did some independent projects. I was working in an attorney's office named Alan Grubman. It's one of the big.
Alan Grubman.
Yeah, he's one.
He was our lawyer. He was our lawyer too.
And right now he's one of the biggest entertainment lawyers.
And he's Madonna's lawyer too.
And amongst Billy Joel, and the list is endless. And I was working in his office, working for a guy named Miles Copeland, working with rock acts.
I know Miles too.
And his brother was Stuart Copeland of the Police. And when I saw this scene happening, I told Alan, I said, Alan, the dance disco scene is starting to take off. So he introduced me at that point in time to two particular people that got me going in terms of promotion. And that was Tommy Mottola. And I promoted Dr. Bizarre's original Savannah Band. And that turned out to be a classic album.
And the Buzzards. Buzzards.
Yeah. And he also introduced me to a guy named Ted Harless, who was the manager of a young singer, you may remember, Vicky Sue Robinson. God, I know. And she had a big hit with Turn the Beat Around. Yeah. So there, my start in dance disco promotion was off and running. And then the next way we segued to him introducing me to Henry Stone of TK Records. And I worked with TK for about 3 or 4 years. And that was tremendous.
Is that where, in TK Records, is that where you met KC?
Yes, KC.
Because it was for everyone that's listening and on Spotify watching, KC is KC of the Sunshine Band, Harry Wayne. Right. Now I heard a story from KC because I toured a lot with him, but I also have another wonderful friend we have in common is George McCrae. Right. George told me 2 years ago, now 3 years ago, on the Ultimate Disco Cruise, that the song Rock the Boat was originally written for KC. He wrote it for himself, but he couldn't hit that high note. Right. And so George was signed to TK, right?
That is correct. And it was.
And so he gave the song to.
Yeah, the song was "Rock Your Baby."
Rock Your Baby. Woo!
Right. And that was 80 million copies sold worldwide.
Incredible.
And that was written by KC. And before KC was doing music, he was working in the mailroom at TK. So it was a tremendous little family down there. But TK had a whole bunch of artists, one of which you sent me a reversion of Peter Brown's Dance With Me. And Peter Brown had a big hit. He had Do You Want to Get Funky With Me?
I loved him. Because at the time, I was like and I've always been into R&B soul music growing up, being in our home, being from mixed background, my mother Puerto Rican and Italian, and then when my father's side, the native side, that came out later in my exploration through native music, incorporating it with dance. But as I grew up at home, my mother's musical taste, then she passed it on to me. So apart from the Latin and mambo music and Latin and salsa, she played a lot of R&B music. Sarah Vaughan,
Ella Fitzgerald.
She played all of that stuff, and I grew up listening to that. Right. So there is no, and then the truth is you have had, you have a really big relationship throughout your life with Black radio,
Right.
including the legendary Frankie Crocker of WBLS.
Um,
How did
uh,
that relationship come about?
oh, wow. I mean, he was, first of all, they didn't call him the chief rocker for anything. I don't know if people outside of New York know who Frankie
No, they
Crocker is,
don't.
but
No.
he is the godfather of urban contemporary radio. And I'll tell you why. He was crucial in bonding the two audiences of Black and white audiences in New York City. And, he played Donna Summer. He played the Village People.
He
Played,
did.
he played Peter Brown. He merged the two audiences, and that's why they wound up at number one on the radio, because he did introduce the stuff that was happening with Rock the Boat, News Corporation, Van McCoy, The Hustle,
Curly Chaka Khan.
right? Gloria Gaynor. The list
Yeah.
was endless. And, so therefore he had as big of a Caucasian audience as he did a Black audience. And therefore that's why we called it urban contemporary radio. And
That's
now
right.
we don't have that now. We don't have a
No,
place in
no.
America where we can break records the way we used
No,
to.
we don't have that right now. And I
We have
know.
Spotify, right?
Well, see, you just jumped way ahead. Now, the thing is that my Bible, which of course you well know, being that you were inside with the record companies and the producers and remixers and all that.
Right.
My Bible was Record World, Cashbox, and
Billboard.
And Billboard magazine. Billboard
Right.
magazine is the biggest, but that was wonderful to watch, to open and turn the pages and actually go to the urban Black contemporary charts,
Right.
urban music. You would see radio listing, you would see pop chart, you would see disco chart, R&B chart, Billboard
Right.
magazine and Record World and Cashbox. They basically gave you, even touring, what the gross domestic ticket sales were.
Right.
This wasn't Ticketmaster.
Yeah, and Billboard was very instrumental, as you know. You just talked about it earlier, in organizing those disco conventions.
Oh my God. Okay, now see, I took you back because
we're jumping all over the place. Yeah,
I do have a lot of laid out questions, but the one thing is that I do, since we're talking about Billboard magazine, and then I saw you, the last time I saw you was at the Hilton Hotel,
right,
for the Billboard Awards. That was really special because you had the entire grand ballroom. Everyone was all in their tables.
Unbelievable.
Record exists, but what you had on the stage were 3 long daises.
I know.
Going across the stage, and all the artists nominated were on the dais.
Donna Summer was up there, Neil
Grace
Bogart.
Jones,
Yeah.
Village People,
Right.
Sylvester. You know, you had everyone like that. I missed that.
Yeah, I know. There was a guy named Bill Wardlow. He was the organizer of those conventions, and he was one of the instrumental people in convincing the Billboard powers to be to do a column on disco files. As Vince Aletti was doing his column at Record World, and they had a big spread on dance disco music. And Billboard was very instrumental at that particular convention. I won Promotion Man of the Year 3 years
like
in
4
a row.
times, 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I lost count, but nevertheless, I kept winning.
It was a beautiful award. We have one. It was like a pyramid.
Yes.
It was beautiful. And it had something inside. I gotta dig it out. My office is encrusted with awards, and I'm so blessed that we lived that life. But it's now so much better now looking back at it than it was when we were doing it. It was a whirlwind. The parties, the
clubs,
there were drugs, there were the clubs, the drinking and all that. I always carried a pair of sunglasses.
Why is that?
Because I hated daylight.
I see.
I would stick them in my sock.
Right.
Under my pants. And when I would leave at 8 in the morning or whatever.
Right. At the Paradise Garage, leaving there at what?
10 a.m. I would put my glasses on.
Going for breakfast at a place called the Pink Teacup, which was a great.
Yeah, I actually went to breakfast with the beautiful and my handsome Noel at the door.
Oh wow! Right.
I went to the Pink Teacup. Now, speaking of handsome, there are pictures of you that you had the definitive look for that period. You're so beautiful. Not that you're not today, but back then, you and your twin brother, I used to get you two mixed up.
Oh God!
I used to, yeah,
I don't.
I would call him Ray, and it's really Bob. And I
Right.
would say Ray, and I would say stuff to him, and
But Felipe, he had a very different look, I think.
he did, but you two were just beautiful to look at. And I mean, you, oh my God, I mean, back in the day. But sometimes I would, depending on what time of the day or night it was,
Right.
I would say stuff to him, and he would look at him, and he would say, "You mean you'd rather say that to my brother Ray, right?"
Right. Right. And Bob had his own world in dance music, managing Grace Jones
Right.
Gwen Guthrie, and
Oh my God.
he had his own company called Bob Caviano Enterprises, and it's so unfortunate that he died at 43.
Yeah, that was so young. God bless him.
He had a great funeral, and the people that came out was unbelievable.
My question to you, you know, why you worked with pretty much everyone? Why didn't you work with Village People, or did we work together and I didn't even know it?
No, because they were on Casablanca, and Mark
You did
Paul.
some work. You did
Yeah.
some work
Yeah,
with
well, that's because
Casablanca.
I had some involvement with. I was very close to Jacques Morali and Henry Bellalo. So, quite frankly, obviously, I knew the internals of what was happening, and we would talk. But no, Village People wasn't part of my manifest, even though I was close with the Can't Stop Productions. That's what it was
I
called.
really wanted it at that time because your name was everywhere,
Yeah.
and I loved the way you would break acts. Like you had a sense of when it was possible to put them out and then pull them back. If
Right.
it got too crazy with the promotion, or see, the problem with Village People was oversaturation. It was so much television. It was so much, so much, so much that what we should have been concentrating on was more focusing on was more of the music and the longevity of the group, as far as just recording just better music. It went bubblegum.
Yeah, it was a mass appeal act, and it started off, with an enormous success and what have you, and it made Casablanca and Neil Bogart and Mark Paul Simon a lot of money. You know what I mean? Do you remember Mark Paul Simon?
Yeah, Mark Paul Simon and Ken Friedman.
Yes, both of them who are no longer
I,
with
I
us.
had a little,
You
I
know?
had a, I had a thing going with Ken for a long time. But it
He's
was
a
one of
sweet,
those.
what a sweet
It
man.
was one of those, like Carol Douglas sings, "The Midnight Love Affair." That's
Right.
pretty much what it was. We would see
Yeah.
each other late into the night.
Yeah, Kenny was a wonder, and he was strong in his promotion presentation.
Yes, he was.
Because he was based in New York, and as you know, Casablanca was based over there in California. I believe, I forget the young lady that worked with them, Michelle Weiner. And then you had Mark, and then of course Neil, who loved dance music, and Village People probably grossed more money for Casablanca than any other artist on the label.
Well, the three, and I'll say that, but you have to also remember that they had also Donna Summer.
Correct.
And they had Kiss. So
right.
We were the three huge, like we were the geese that laid the golden eggs for them.
Right. And they had another big dance act that wasn't as big, but loved Alice Constantino with Love and Kisses.
He was, Love and Kisses. My friend Elaine Hill, God bless her, she's also gone, and she was with Love and Kisses. So now that I got that out of the way, and now realizing now that I thought maybe we worked together at some point, and now we didn't. The thing is,
but we saw each other in the highways and the byways.
We did.
I won't mention any particular club.
No, but at a lot of parties, I used to be at Studio 54, either upstairs looking down or at the back looking in. I would always come through the 53rd Street entrance.
Right.
I wouldn't go through the front ever.
We had a great party there, the launch of my label.
Hardly ever. And I used to always see you either with Grace Jones or Diana Ross or someone really ultra fabulous. And I would look over and, okay, there he is, but there's so-and-so. Oh, and but there's so, while it was a glance of just seeing you, everything else around you, up and above and underneath, it was just crazy atmosphere.
And they had a great DJ, Richie Kazar was
Richie
the DJ.
Kazar, where is he?
Well, he passed away.
He passed away too.
Yeah.
This is what leads me now to the and I'm gonna jump way ahead because you basically started the the history of dance music, which pretty much like this podcast is a time capsule.
Right, right.
But the history of dance music,
Oh, you mean the
you
group on Facebook that I
the
started?
but it's huge,
Yeah, it's about 14,000 members.
and
Yes.
your archive is
Yeah,
massive,
right.
massive, and you cover everything,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just not just disco.
Right. It's a well accepted chronicle of dance and disco music and the evolution of it, and to demonstrate that it was an important piece of music history, just the way Woodstock was, and it was an important piece of Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, all the major acts, the British invasion, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. I felt that the music that we brought to the table and that culture will never be the same. If we made an impact. I mean, I got a deal from Warner Brothers for which was on paper $6 million to sign acts and to run their dance music department. It was a job, if you will. And on Warner Brothers, we
It
had
was an entrepreneurship.
yeah, we had Chaka Khan, and we had Ashford and Simpson, and the B-52s and Devo, and what have you. And so, but then of course there was, and we don't want to drop that right now maybe, but the backlash that came into play.
Right, but you just jumped ahead. It's because my question was going to be that how does a young man, start off at a small independent label like TK Records,
Right,
and then all of a sudden it turned it into a powerhouse label,
right,
and then you ended up with $1 million deal, and then you got signed with Warner.
correct. Well, that's
How
because that's
how
because TK had tremendous crossover hits. You realize KC sold 3 million albums with the "Shake Your Booty" single. Unbelievable. I mean,
and he wrote it,
and he wrote it. And the
and he owns the
publishing money is
publishing on that.
unbelievable.
That is
And to this
crazy.
day, as you know, he's still working. I think he's on that disco cruise that's coming up. You're on it too, right?
No, I was on it 2.5 years ago because I don't know that you know, but just much like, hold on, I gotta plug my phone in.
Okay.
Um, just much like your unfortunate situation where you went away disappeared for like 2 decades and stuff because of a situation that happened with drugs and this and that.
Right.
I had a horrible situation with the way the group ended, and it ended badly. But I kept it off social media because I was not about to talk about stuff that people don't understand. And
Right.
you could
But to
talk
this
about.
day, you're still working.
I'm working, but I'm not working like I used to be. I mean, I've got this one gig coming up next month at the Meisner Amphitheater in Boca Raton with Lime, Frangioly, Heatwave, Earl Young, formerly
Ah, that's what I saw.
of the
Okay.
Tramps, uh, Travaris, Evelyn Champagne King, and the Blue Notes. And I'm basically going to be now not opening. Now I'm going to be the I'm going to be the anchor between the first half of the show and the second half of the show. And so basically, I will appear in my native gear, and
Right.
I will sing 3 songs. I'll sing the Dance with Me version of Peter Brown because I loved him so much.
Wow. Wow.
Loved him. And
And
I don't
that's
know
one
if
of the reasons why TK was big, because you take an act like Peter Brown. He had two major hits of Do You Want to Get Funky with Me, which was a gold 12-inch, one of the first gold 12 inches. And then the follow-up, Dance with Me, was huge. And Betty Wright was the co-singer on that. And in
she
60,
was.
60 Minutes did a special about how you cut a disco record. And they went into the studio and did a session with Peter Brown, and it aired with Dan Rather. So TK was a small independent label, but that's why Warner's was interested in me, because of they borrowed me while I was still at TK to be a consultant on an artist named Madeline Kane. She had a record
Oh
called,
my God! Wait a minute, and
yeah,
she's right now. She's like just appeared like a year ago on Facebook,
right,
and I
exactly.
would love to get her on the show, but I've written to her and
No,
like
she's not hard to get a hold of. You can reach out for her.
really.
Yeah. Oh, she's accessible, and she had a record called Rough Diamond.
Oh
That
my God!
Yeah,
Huge.
and you know,
She looks amazing, and she looks amazing.
Yeah, she did. I was borrowed to use that project. Henry Stone got a call from Mo Austin, the chairman of the board of Warner Brothers, and said, "Henry, do you mind if we borrow Ray to do a project for us?" So I went ahead, I did it. The project went to #1, and that's how I got to know all the people at Warner Brothers. I took her out to the Pines and what have you, and the record exploded. And Jim Burgess did a great mix on that. You remember Jim?
Okay, we're gonna hold that name. We're gonna hold that name, and we're gonna pause. We'll be right back with Ray Caviano. We're back, and we're back. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us on the Disco Chronicles. Jim Burgess, you threw out this name.
Right.
He was an amazing. Wow.
Wow. I mean, Jim was, he was vocal.
He sang opera for me one day in the club.
Right, he's classically
trained.
Sang
like an aria over music that he was playing. And because he heard me do my tribal call. And he said, "Oh, honey, I can do better than that."
Right. He's an opera, classically trained.
He sang an aria while he was mixing a song.
Yes.
At Xenon.
Right. Right. And, he's, to me, there was 2 major DJs that I utilized for most of my remixes, with some exceptions. I used Richie Rivera. He did a project for me. I used T. Scott. He did a project for me. But Jim and Larry Levan were the 2 architects of my remixes. Jim did, Madeline Kane. He did the remix of Rod Stewart for me for Do You Think I'm Sexy?
Slow that down. That was my beef because Village People had #2 with YMCA.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he jumps over us and hits #1.
There you go.
I was like, what the is this? And then we stay hanging there in the charts, and then we dropped to 3, went back to 2, and then Sheet comes out.
Right.
With theirs. And then we're like, what? And then all of a sudden, 3 times, we are Sister Sledge jumped over, and there was #1. We never made it to #1 on Billboard.
Right.
We stayed at 2 for most of the year.
Jim did an incredible remix on that Rod Stewart cut, and Warner Brothers and they couldn't believe the success of that. That sold 3 million singles of that particular cut. And Jim did a lot of other remixes for me. He did he just had the Midas touch.
He did.
And he did a record for me on TK called Amant, which was excellent. He did The Beat Goes On with Ripple, which was a huge record. Jim was incredible. And of course, Larry Levan was no slouch, needless to say.
Well, no, I mean, Larry Levan right now, he's hailed right now, well, not in just my opinion, many of us that come from this era, that he was, the best at how good can you get? I mean, it was sheer brilliance, and he commanded and played at the Paradise Garage, and I would literally watch him because there were times that I was mesmerized by the mix, but the lighting situation
and the sound, wow,
and the sound was incredible, and so Larry, your relationship with Larry really is special because this man, again, he is a bona fide legend,
right?
Just as much as Jim Burgess, but Larry's legacy is so solid and so incredible.
Well, that club was incredible. I mean, the owners, Mel Sharon from West End Records, and with the gentleman that he was the owner with, whose name escapes me for the moment, but that club. I used to take on Friday nights. I used to take Frankie Crocker up there to the booth, and I would bring my test pressings to test.
I was just gonna do. You just took that right out of my mouth because of the acetate.
Right.
Acetate. So what? So they come hand in hand. Record promotion means I have to go to the club. Correct.
Right. Exactly. And that the pre-promotion was more important. That's what you were talking about before. The way I would systematically try to break a record, first with the acetate, test it, then I would make 100 test pressings and send it to the VIPs, not only in New York, but around the country.
Right.
And I would take a Frankie Crocker, but I remember one night I took him up there, I brought the acetate of Gino Socio's Dancer. and he played it.
That's such a great song.
And the club exploded. The following Monday, it was on WBLS. They were breaking records, Felipe, right out of Larry's booth, if you will. It
So
was
you know
unbelievable.
when Dancer was playing and it was out, I was really just ending my career of like a year and a half at the Anvil when Jacques Morali discovered me.
Right.
And I was dancing to Dancer by Gino Socio.
Wow.
And
Okay.
that's when he said, okay, I want you to put a group together with me, and we're going to call it Village People. And I was just looking at him, rolling my eyes up like, really, that's a terrible idea. Just it's a stupid idea.
Let me tell you something. Don't underestimate Jacques Morali. Oh, I love you. Oh, everything is beautiful. Oh, kiss me.
Chérie. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he was a kind-hearted man, Jacques.
Kind-hearted, but he was a nightmare to work with. I mean, as an artist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he and more Henri. Well, he was Bengali. Like they literally had to control us, how we went out, when we went out. It was really, today, if I would have known that as a young boy, I would have said, your contract does not stipulate when you can tell me when I can leave my hotel and when I can't.
Right. Well, they were trying to also act as managers, correct?
Well, they were managers.
So they were managers and the record company?
And producers, and the record company with Scorpio Music, who licensed the albums to Casablanca Records, RCA, Mercury Records in Germany, in Italy. They licensed the albums all over the world.
Right. Well, listen, you can't question the success of what they accomplished.
Obviously. No, I'm not, and I'm not going to. I mean, I was at the right place at the right time, and they laid out my legacy, and everything is still beautiful and incredible. I want to figure out, the dark side of disco that we people are still questioning. I know I read one article where Gloria Gaynor was actually saying that radio actually killed off disco. What do you think happened? What was it?
No, there was a backlash of a lot of different reasons. There was a homophobia element, if you will, and then there was also a backlash. Listen, the promotion departments of the major record companies, you have the black music division and you have the pop music division that promote pop and rock and roll, and the black music divisions. They had a hard time coming to grips with the strength and the tidal wave of the explosion that came on the scene with stations like WKTU and disco stations around the country. And they couldn't understand the power of how these records, Rock the Boat sold over 50,000 copies in New York before it even got on the radio. This was something new to the
That was new, yeah.
And there was an element of homophobia and if you will, racial elements regarding the black music departments, who couldn't understand the traditional way that you would break a black record on black radio in the black community. But Donna Summer and Gloria Gaynor and Van McCoy and CJ and Company and Cerrone, and the list is endless. Peter Brown, T Connection, Casey and the Sunshine Band, George McRae, hit after hit after hit, and it was overwhelming to these people. And of course, we had that famous Steve Dahl explosion in the baseball.
July 19, 1979.
Right, and then Wall Street Journal did an article later on saying that dance and disco was waning, and there was a time where the records started to become somewhat formula and cosmetic. It just sounded, when you had Ethel Merman doing disco, I think or Disco Duck. I mean, we reached a different.
Well, that was interesting because it was interesting that you brought her up, because Merv Griffin, because we only did something like 29 of his shows.
Right.
He loved the Village People, and he asked on Jacques to could he record a version of Stout Hearted Men with Ethel Merman? And while I did not know the song, I looked it up, researched it, and thought, oh, give me some men that are stout
Mm,
hearted men. I thought, okay, that could be interesting if it's done right. And it didn't happen, but had it would have happened, it probably would have been in the that hallway where Disco Duck, Ethel Merman, and the
yeah.
Village People singing together would have been like a cult classic camp situation.
No kidding. But you know what? The moral of the story is after that happened with the backlash and all the negative energy, disco didn't die. In fact,
No,
what I
it
did
moved
at Warner
around the
Brothers,
world. It
yeah,
moved around the world.
and what I did at Warner Brothers is that I changed the name from the disco department to the dance music department. And the fact is, disco is about a discotheque and people dancing to hit songs that are danceable. So there we had the birth of house music in Chicago. And Joyce Sims, that was in the later 80s.
It was.
So the beat went on with Frankie
And
Knuckles,
freestyle stemmed out
and
of that.
then that's right with TKA and Johnny O and Cynthia and they had
Brenda K. Starr and Judy
right,
Torres.
right. So
I mean, Judy Torres has a great career. She's on radio in KTU.
right. So
She's had that gig. She's had that gig for so long. I said to her one day, "Wait, you think I'm gonna leave that gig?" And she said, "Are you crazy?"
I remember when I was working at Micmac with Mickey Garcia, and we had on KTU, looking at the playlist, I had about 4 or 5 records on KTU from little old Micmac. Okay, and that was tremendous. And TKA, they were huge.
Yes.
So the moral of the story, like I say, is that it reinvented itself. House came into play. David Morales got big. Frankie Knuckles got big.
Wow.
And the beat went on. So right now, today, one of the biggest remnants is house right now still. And we have artists doing house music like they need to do house music in order to save house music.
It's very popular right now and is in Europe right now and gone back like 3-4 times since the summer. Is Lenny Fontana.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, he's plays soul music, house music. It's just insane. And they go there and they dance, but they face. See the difference with DJs in the clubs here as opposed to there, and also in Australia. I only went there 39 times.
Right.
Is that the people when they dance, they face the DJ booth.
Right.
And they dance paying homage to the DJ. Right. We don't do that in this country.
No.
People just think the DJs are for requests and are secondary to what they're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas DJs in Europe, they are really, they're killing it over there.
Yeah, there's a guy named Dave Lee, and he's been around a long time. And I was watching a video of him playing Dancer in an English club. I think it was the Ministry of Sound or whatever it was in England. And the crowd just exploded. It was such an interaction between the DJ and him. Then, yes, you're right. Them facing the DJ, and it was more of an interaction. Of course, you do have the EDM DJs like Calvin Harris and whatever. They're just pushing knobs, and that's a whole other issue.
That's a whole other thing. That really is. That really is, because the thing is to sit and watch a DJ, old school DJ sit and mix. Either remember they used to bring crates, their records with them.
Right.
I was watching Nicky Ciano. I was at his house.
I knew you were going to mention his name.
Because the way he played. Right. The way he would listen to his record that was playing, and he knew he had an option of 3 other songs that he was going to play, but he had to find the right timing with the right break to bring this in. And he would be listening, go, no, let me take this off and put this one on.
Right.
And then he would wait for that moment, and it's like you're counting beats, you're counting measures, and you're paying attention to what they're doing. But the minute, because he told me, if you get it wrong, you can clear a dance floor.
No kidding. And we have the DJs that we knew back in the day, Roy Thode.
Oh my God, Jesus, I love him.
Nicky
What a
Ciano.
handsome guy. He was a cowboy.
Yeah, he was, Marsha Stern has been her
I just
big,
had her on the show. Yeah,
and
Marsha.
big advocate of Roy. And then you had Richie
Yes.
Rivera from who got his stardom from the Anvil. They loved him.
Who? Richie?
Yeah, Richie.
Well, Richie and I started together there, and then when Village People became boom, early on, like before YMCA, but it was like Macho Man era, whatever. He asked me, "Would you come and do the sound of your sleigh bells on this song called Hallelujah's Handel's Messiah?" He did a disco version of that.
Oh, really? I
So,
didn't know
yes,
that. That's interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
and what's interesting is that was never recorded. I mean, that was never, word didn't get out. What got out was the insiders at Sigma Sounds, and some of the engineers started talking, and then Henri and Jacques found out about it.
Oh, really?
That's
interesting.
What happened was, it would have been one thing if I would have gone in there and just strapped the bells on and done the whole thing with the microphones on, with sandbags and pillows holding the microphones down near my ankles.
Right.
It's just that I went there with my hair braided. I threw on a mohawk. I threw on tribal gear. I kind of blessed the thing, and I made it more than it was. And Henri, they called me back from the airport. They said, "You can't leave. You have to come straight to the office." And the car turned around and took me. Everyone took the flight. "We'll book you tomorrow to go to California," wherever I was going. And I got there to the office while the car was waiting. Ding, 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 ding. That's future money for royalties that'll come out of that.
Right.
And you know that. And he was so upset that he fired me. And I said, "Yeah," because he said, "You're on the contract. You shouldn't be singing or playing or appearing or whatever, and you're fired." And I said, "Fine, I'm fired, but you don't own my image, my brand, or my heritage." Right. When I walk out, I take everything with me. And Henri freaks and say,
okay.
Wait. No. Shh, bring it down. You two, bring it down. Okay, misunderstanding. We now know. Felipe, you know. Jacques, you know. So Henri kind of smoothed it out.
I see. Okay.
But Richie Rivera did Handel's Messiah.
Wow.
Disco version.
Very, very excellent DJ. He also played at, you remember Flamingo?
Oh my God.
Richie played there with another DJ, Howard Merritt. He was a great DJ.
Howard Merritt's also great. Now, do you know why you would go dancing if you did dance? I don't think you probably went there to dance. You went there to do promotion.
But you could find me on the dance floor.
Okay, so
especially at 12 West.
Well, 12 West. The difference is my question is I'm gonna ask you is that why didn't your chins on your ankle, why didn't they hurt the next day at Flamingo or Paradise Garage?
I don't know where I had the energy. I was young.
No, because the club, when the dance floor was built, the first level underneath it was all sand, and then they built a dance floor over it.
Was that true at all the clubs?
No, only at Flamingo and Paradise Garage,
and not at 12 West.
No, 12 West, we were on the sidewalk. It was one level. You walked in, there were bleachers and all that.
Yeah, they had bleachers. In,
that was a concrete floor.
Right, that was. And that was
you could feel it the next day. You could feel it the next day, 8 hours dancing. I actually remember another evening that Jacques calls me and says, I lived on West 16th Street and 8th Avenue. He says, "Sherry, we're going out tonight. I'm sending a car for you. Please get dressed." I'm like, "Why?" He took the acetate record of Macho Man. And, and he went, I met him at 12 West. We walk in, everyone's dancing. They see him, they see me all in gear. And all the people remember there was that, he's the guy that dances at the Anvil and Roseland and all that. They didn't put two into the He walks over to the DJ booth and he says, "Here, play this." And the DJ just kind of, with one ear, like played it. It cleared the dance floor.
Right.
And he took the record back and he said, "Drop me off at home." I think I stayed, and he left. And he went straight to Sigma Sounds and he remixed Macho Man, cut an acetate, and then he went back the following weekend by himself. and then he handed it to whoever DJ was playing.
Well, Jim
And
Burgess, it might have been, or Alan
it
Dodd, or
must have
Jonathan
been.
Fearing.
Yeah,
Either
it
one.
must
Right.
have been. It must have been. He
Right.
was,
Unbelievable.
yeah,
Unbelievable.
well, he was unbelievable. He was daring and a lot of fun, but sometimes, I would say to him, because he was French and I'm from Brooklyn, a mixed biracial kid, I would say, this is the kind of stuff that could get you killed.
I know.
Cement booze, don't mess with the club,
Right.
don't mess with the clubs,
And they had
and
great owners of 12 Us, a guy named Alan Harris and Tony Martino. They were a wonderful couple that owned the club. And I mean, you just don't. That's not the way you promote a record in a DJ booth.
no, well, the thing is that they didn't want to hire guys like you.
Yeah.
Can't stop. They could have, and I wish they had.
Right.
Because we had at Casablanca Records in the New York office, we had Cookie Gonzalez and Ruben Martinez. Ruben Rodriguez that we just lost like recently.
Yes, that's true.
Like
that's
2
true.
years ago during the pandemic.
Yeah, Ruben is a godfather of R&B promotion, no question about it.
Right. He actually was responsible for contacting me and Glenn Hughes, the biker, the mustache, the late biker, Glenn Hughes.
Right.
And he was instrumental in taking us to Empire Boulevard in Brooklyn, the roller skating rink, to go skate with Cher because she had Take Me Home.
I see. Okay, which was a big record.
So there she is on the roller skating with me on one end and her on the other. And we went to Australia during the Believe tour. We were with her for a year because the group just broke up badly in 2017. But on the flight going home, we did a national tour of Australia, and she was walking up to the upper class, and I decided I needed to stretch and come down the stairs, and we started talking, and I reminded her, what I was thinking about was that night when we took you with Ruben Rodriguez to the Empire Boulevard to your roller skating party, and she said, "Oh wow, that's a name I haven't heard." And I said, "But do you remember what you were wearing?" And she went, "Oh God, I don't know. And so she was wearing black spandex pants with her black skates. She was wearing a mesh blouse with no sleeves, rhinestone, and like her hair was cut short with a space band or something.
Yeah.
And what happened was that we were skating with her, but when the photographers took pictures of her in the newspaper and People magazine, the crystals just absorbed the flash. So it just looked like she was just bare-chested skating.
Oh my God.
And she remembered that. That's why she put her hand on her head, like, why do you bring these things up?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So, as we end, I think that, the great thing about you is that you are a true historian. You have such a vast collection of memories and your stories and your relationships with a lot of the artists. But I want to know, is there going to be a Ray Caviano movie?
It's a possibility, or shall I say a documentary, if you will.
Well, documentary, I really would like to see, like, if Brian Murphy can get a script to him and do like a Netflix miniseries of 5-6 episodes, because you were, the kingpin, the disco kingpin,
Well, it was an exciting period. There's no question about it. By the way, there's one artist and one record that I signed, which was the first signing to the RFC label, that I would be remiss in not mentioning, besides Gino Socio, is Change and the Glow of Love album.
Luther Vandross.
Right, with Luther Vandross. And that helped catapult him, if you will, into major stardom. So I was very excited.
Yes, it did.
Yeah,
that went because he was a singer with Change with Diva Gray,
right? And Tanya Willoughby, Jocelyn Brown, the whole crew.
Right, and then that song pulled him out front and center and
Right.
he began his solo career.
Right. There were 3 hits on that album: "The Searching," "The Glow of Love," and "Lover's Holiday."
And
Unbelievable.
he has a greatest hits album, a CD that I still play, and it has all those songs on there.
Luther, unbelievable. And then he got a deal at
So
Epic Records.
I'm gonna run a bunch of names by you, and you can just say something or not say. Okay, Janice McLean.
Smack dab in the middle. It was a remix by Larry Levan. It was a major Paradise Garage record, and it had a Philadelphia sound to
Yes,
it.
it did.
MSMAB.
It did.
And that was a big record. I loved it.
Who were the musicians on that record? Were they from Philly?
Yeah, all the
MFSB.
Yeah, and it had that love is the message sound to it. And Larry did an incredible mix.
Yeah,
and that was on the Warner RFC label.
You know that, yeah, our live studio musicians were Gypsy Lane from Philadelphia.
Right. Yeah. He used Richie Rome and a lot of the people from Philadelphia, without question, because the best disco in town I promoted for TK.
Which that was on TK when it came out?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also, he wasn't, his relationship was with you first and not Neil Bogart.
Exactly.
Neil Bogart was later with Village People.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And he had the Brazil on the 20th Century label. That's what Billy Smith promoted. But then he signed to TK Records, and we had the best disco in town, which was an enormous crossover, massive hit. So that's the involvement I had with Jacques Morali.
Yeah. Grace Jones.
Well, I mean, my brother was the manager, and I one of the first records I promoted at Warner Brothers when I got there on Island Records was "Pull Up to the Bumper, Baby."
Pull up to my bumper, baby.
So she was, listen, I used to go over there and you know, she had a kid with that actor she married. And
yeah, but there I have really wonderful pictures of you with Grace at Studio 54.
Yeah.
There's at one point you're sitting back in one of those,
and she's playing with my hair and everything.
Playing with your hair because you have such beautiful hair. You still have hair, by the way.
There you go.
Thank God we still have hair.
Thank God.
And Corey Day, Dr. Buzzer Savannah.
Well, I mean, when she does interviews, she talks about how an instrumental role that I played in taking them out to the Pines and then performing out there. And she said once I brought them out there and the word spread like wildfire, it was on BLS a couple of days later. So you
brought Savannah Band to Fire Island because when that album dropped, I swear that I felt that I was in the tropics. I felt that.
Yeah.
And for you to take them to Fire Island, they must have lost their minds.
They did, and that catapulted them into making the record massive. And Corey, when she does interviews, articulates that. And I have a picture of her. I think I just posted it the other day. It's a great picture.
I just saw that, and I just found a picture of her and I talking in the hallway at the Westbury Music Fair Theater about 4 years ago when we finally saw each other, and I was solo with 2 girls backing me up, and I was like nervous.
Yeah.
Oh my God, are people going to love it? I did Going Back to My Roots. I did Macho Man and then YMCA, and YMCA Raises the Dead. And it was like nothing. They introduced me, Joe Causey and Michelle Licata, to that sold out crowd. I walked down there singing because I had the headset mic. I wanted to be very Janet Jackson.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
And I walked down there, and let me tell you, the crowd, they were standing, and I was a little smack gog because I thought that I'm not in the group, so you don't get that full effect. But no, they love it. They love the memory. They you know, because of, I guess, the way I've taken care of myself and the way I look and my energy, they embrace it. And I did 12 shows with Corey in 2018 and 19.
Right. And look, Corey went on, you know, she was part of the Savannah Band, but then she went on as a solo where she had a big record with, I believe it was called Pow Wow. It was you.
Oh my God. So we wanted to do that. She wanted to start that song, and she wanted me to come out in the middle of the song and do that. And I've always wanted to do a remake of that song, but I don't know, today things are so, you know, politicized. Everything is politicized. If I even did gonna have a powwow, I might have Native brothers and sisters jump out of the Okay, so another one that we mentioned, and I was with Vicky Sue Robinson, God bless her. We were touring and she was in the lobby of the hotel up in Buffalo, New York, and
Right.
she wasn't feeling well, and she said, Felipe, I think I'm gonna go home. I'm not gonna perform. And she went home, and her husband Bill, they said goodbye, and I basically mentioned it to a few people and the group, and a week later she passed. Laura Branigan, another one, rest in
I
peace.
promoted that record, Gloria. I was when I left Warner Brothers. I went independent for a year and did a lot of independent promotion, the Go-Go's and the Jacksons and Lena Lovitch, and I even promoted when John Lennon died. I promoted "Walking on Thin Ice." I went to go
Wow,
see.
that was a great song.
Yeah, it went to #1 on the dance
Was
charts.
Yoko on that?
Yeah, she was screaming in the background. You know,
She was making some kind of sound, right? But
yeah.
that was a beautiful song.
And I went to go see her after John died. And after I left, did independent promote. I started a label called Quality RFC. That was a label out of Canada. Had a big record with Jimmy Ross called First True Love Affair, and a couple of other hits on that label. And then I was given an offer to go to Atlantic by
Yeah,
Doug.
well, that was in the next page.
Right.
That was
And
on my
Laura
next.
Branigan was one of the records I promoted while at Atlantic. And I took Change with me. And then Gino Socio, we had a big hit with Gino at Atlantic called Try It Out. Which
Now
was,
you had another massive, huge hit with we were like family, because the brother that replaced the original lead singer was Ray Simpson, that was with me for 38 years, Ashford and Simpson.
right.
So Valerie and the late Nick Ashford again,
Right.
you know, they had a big success with you.
Yeah, well, we had a big record, the #1 dance record while I was at Warner Brothers, again, promoting their product with Found a Cure.
Oh my God, so huge!
Yeah.
Oh my God!
And it was
the gay clubs embraced it like they ate it up.
And it was a big R&B and
It
pop
was a
record.
big R&B, but in the gay community, it was massive.
Yeah, and there's a picture I just posted a while back of myself, Valerie and Nick and Frankie Crocker. It's a great picture.
I just saw that. Yeah,
yeah.
I just saw that.
Yeah.
Another one, and I'm gonna just say that I've been with this woman, and I'm with her several times with Freddie Jackson, Melissa Morgan.
Wow, yeah, Do Me Baby, and she had a lot of Fool's Paradise, and then we had when we started the relaunch of RFC a couple of years back, RFC Fresh Records, that we signed her, one of the early, and Lenny Fontana produced the record, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and right now she's touting herself because she just had a gospel R&B record. It was big in England, and she's trying to get Grammy nominations. And but Do Me Baby, that was written by Prince, and Fool's Paradise, they were huge. She was with Capitol, and you mentioned Freddie Jackson, who was also on Capitol.
Right.
You know, one of the first records we did when we relaunched the RFC Fresh label with Lenny Fontana, we did a record with Lenny with D-Train, and Raise Your Hands, it was called, and it did very, very well as a house record. So I don't know, the beat goes on, you know.
Yeah, hold that thought. We'll be right back. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. All of this that we have gone, like we can literally talk for hours.
Right.
Your trajectory. What's next for you?
Well, we're continuing to do music in the studio. We have an artist named Peter Wayne. We've had 4 hits. I have to be honest with you. I've taken a lot of the energy that I used to do with the clubs to break records. And you know where I break most of my R&B records now? Because I don't do a lot of dance, although I've just done a record with Don Welch as a consultant with a remix of Black Ivory, Don't Turn Around. And that's doing well. But I break a lot of my records now in England on the internet soul stations in England. I have about 400 DJs that are radio presenters that I know on a personal basis.
Right.
I establish a rapport. There's all this Solar Radio and My Soul Radio, and in England,
I listen to My Soul.
Yeah, and Starpoint Radio, and this internet stations in England have a lot of power, and they have a thing called the UK Soul Charts, and so that's where a lot of my energies are right now, with trying to break records, because trying to break records on R&B radio right now is not like it was back in the day.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's a whole other world.
Yeah. So that being said, I just want to say once again, Ray, God bless you. I'm so honored that you were here today on the show, on the Disco Chronicles. And again, we could just keep going, and I hope that maybe I could take you out to dinner and we could sit down and really chew the fat. Seriously.
And talk about a lot of the stuff that we're not talking about here.
Then we're not. Exactly. So I
Okay.
want to thank you, and I want to thank all my watchers on Spotify and everyone listening on Anchor FM and on eagleradio.pro. Thank you so much. I want to thank Ray Caviano of RFC Fresh Records for having this enlightening, electric conversation with me. We honestly could have gone on all night with this guy. And so I'm honored. He's been in my orbit with throughout my entire career. And I cannot believe it's been like over 45 years, maybe, that we finally saw each other again today via the internet. And so I want to thank Spotify.com for watching us on Spotify, for listening to us on Anchor FM and eagleradio.pro. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you when we see you. Keep on dancing. Hi, I'm Felipe Rose, formerly of Village People. I'm going to shake things up with the Saturday Night Dance Fever Tour at the Meisner Amphitheater in Boca Raton on Saturday, November 12th at 7 p.m. Buy a ticket. See you in Boca Raton. Locked up.